Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting story. It's about a 30-year-old girl. I hope it will be a relaxing time for you. Don't forget to like, leave a comment and subscribe to support the channel. Now let's go to the main content of this story. In the city outskirts, where the air is clean and the small streets are empty, creating a peaceful space, few people find it, especially in this area. Stories, big or small, are shared through the afternoon tea parties of the local people. But if there is one person in the neighborhood that everyone knows, it is Aunt Thao. Don't think that doing insurance is easy. Aunt Thao, with her way of doing things, is no different from an idol of the whole neighborhood at the age of 30. Aunt Thao still maintains her look like a 20-year-old, smooth skin, bright, no less than the girls who have just grown up. Every time Aunt appears, all the eyes around her can't get out of the image of a woman who is seductive and attractive. Unlike other women in the neighborhood, Aunt Thao has a style of wearing a turban and full of confidence. Aunt Thao often says, just like this example, that Aunt Thao is always the most successful shopper in the neighborhood. Although there is no need, people still come to Aunt Thao to listen to advice. Aunt Thao often says, just like this example, that Aunt Thao is always the most successful shopper in the neighborhood, and sometimes just a glance is enough to make them blush. Aunt Thao is also attractive wherever she goes. Especially with her long hair, she always flies with the wind every time she goes to the market, whether it's just a greeting or paying for vegetables. Aunt Thao's sweet voice also attracts people's attention. Aunt Thao's husband, Mr. Tan, although he is a big and hot man now, it's just a vague memory of him being in jail for a fight before. Aunt Thao's life was really not easy. Although Mr. Tan only worked as a shopper with a small income, but every time he got drunk, Aunt Thao had to endure the fights. Those nights, Aunt Thao often cried alone, wondering where his life would go. But now, when Mr. Tan is gone, Aunt Thao steps into an independent life, not only worrying about her son who is in the 7th grade. Aunt also has to take care of everything for the family. Aunt decides to pursue insurance. An easygoing job, but it also helps Aunt earn money and live independently. Aunt Thao often drives a red-brown motorbike, drives around the neighborhood from house to house, greeting, persuading customers. But that motorbike, according to the neighbors, it was a gift from a customer who signed a contract with Aunt Thao. In another corner of the story, How, Mr. Tan's nephew, is an 18-year-old boy in 12th grade. How is well-educated, fair-skinned, good at drawing due to his family background. How lives with his parents downstairs. Aunt Thao's family is a bit different recently. How often visits Aunt's house at night to teach Tuan. In fact, at first, Hao's parents were a bit worried about their son having a lot of contact with Aunt Thao, partly because of Aunt's reputation, partly because of Aunt's way of dressing. But Aunt Thao always said that his son was very good. What to worry about with the people in the house? My grandson is not ashamed of anyone. So every night Hao visits Aunt's house, sits next to the closet to teach. Aunt Thao usually sits next to a cup of water, but the way Aunt Thao drinks water, Aunt Thao's thin shirt reveals the red shirt as if by accident, as if on purpose. Hao doesn't know where to look. There was a time when Hao's face turned red when Aunt asked, why do you teach your son to cover his face like that? Alternatively, does Aunt's attire not fit you? Half a joke, half the truth of Aunt makes Hao laugh in his heart, but he didn't dare to think further. He boasted that he was only a grandson and that his mission was to help Aunt and Tuan. He also said that he shouldn't think too much because life has never happened the way people think. That night, the moon was bright and the sky was cool. Hao carried a book and went through a small alley to Aunt Thao's house. He was determined to teach Tuan to study as usual, but when he reached the door, he noticed a strange silence. He only heard the sound of water running from the bathroom. Hao stood motionless at the door, nodded, and asked, where did you have gone? Tuan must have gone somewhere. At that moment, the bathroom door opened a little, then closed quickly along with Aunt Thao's voice. Hao said, just come in, Tuan's brother has gone to his grandmother's house, he'll probably be back soon. Hao was a little embarrassed. Aunt was taking a bath, but he was a little weird, he thought. But then Aunt said again, just sit there and wait for Aunt. After taking a bath, Aunt made tea to invite him. The feeling was in the light of the invitation. Hao stepped into the house, put a pair of books on the table. Sitting in a warm place, he heard a rustling sound from the bathroom. Sometimes Aunt Thao's voice was added to praise some song. He tried to focus on the book roll on the table, but his mind was always filled with images of Aunt Thao with wet hair, white skin under the light of the bathroom. The feeling of curiosity gradually increased. Hao turned his eyes around. There was definitely no one. Then gently stood up towards the bathroom. I just looked at what Tame was doing. He was self-conscious. The light came out from the open bathroom door, created a small hole, enough for how to peek inside, and just as you imagine Aunt Thao, in the thin sleeve dress, just undressed, standing under the lotus pot. The water flowing on the skin, each movement of the hand raised the hair up really slowly. That scene is no different from some movies on the web that you often watch. How swallowed a sip of water, he thought. No, this is Tame Min, but it's okay to look a little. That look quickly dragged on for a minute. How just stood like the sun, closed his eyes and opened the door every time Aunt Thao turned around. He closed his eyes again, but right after that, he looked up like he was hypnotized. Suddenly, How heard the sound of the lotus pot and the lotus pot stopping. Aunt Thao shouted, "Ah, the lotus pot is boiling, the lotus pot is dead." How shook himself, hurried back a step in his mind. He swam, played on the ground, was caught and died. But I don't know if Tame saw that I didn't. Aunt Thao opened the bathroom door on the person, rolled up a white towel, the water absorbing hair tied on the shoulder. The skin spread out, the light came up. Under the light I saw How standing there with a confused face. Aunt Thao nodded. "What are you doing here? Would you mind joining us at the table?" With a nod, How replied, "Yes, I did hear the sound of the lotus pot," to which Aunt Thao replied, "Just a lotus pot, why are you so angry? Or did you believe it to be a trap?" Then Aunt Thao stepped over, leaving behind a fragrant scent and tiny drops of water that fell to the floor. How turned away, afraid to look, feeling a little embarrassed by what he had just witnessed. Sitting at the table, drinking water, Aunt Thao grinned and asked, "Did you see Tame getting fatter? I noticed that I was a little red in the face when I looked in the mirror today." "No," Aunt Thao smiled, "and he is really gorgeous. So, Tame is content, but I'm old. People say that when you're 18, you know who you want to love. Is there a girl in school yet? Or are you particularly fond of someone else?" Aunt Thao was a little lightheaded and his eyes were shaking as though he wanted to make sure. Isn't it true that he lied to Tame because he was afraid of someone? How rolled up his sleeves and said, "No, I'm very busy studying, I haven't thought about it." The question was like shooting a black heart, but How just dared to laugh, avoiding Tame's gaze. Finally, Chu also returned from his grandmother's house. Destroy the air of fear. How hurriedly taught his brother to do his homework. Try to focus, don't let your mind drift back to the images in the bathroom, but deep down in your heart, you know that feeling, the curiosity and a little tremor will not disappear easily. Aunt Thao's life was not easy. Do insurance business. Tame had to face hundreds of rejections every day, but if you ask why Tame was still shy, surely the answer is because of beauty, temperament and fate. That day, Aunt Thao suddenly asked how to go with Tame to meet a customer to sign a contract. Tame said, "Tame is too busy, the customer is far away, or take Tame for convenience." Tame is not at ease to go alone. Hearing Tame say that, How did not refuse. He took Aunt Thao's bicycle and Tame sat behind, hugging Tame on the way. How felt his heart beating faster than usual. The reason is that today Aunt Thao wears a red two-strand dress except for a thin shirt, but the button only has 2 knots on top. Every time the wind blows, the shirt flutters out of the smooth. Tame is too busy, the customer is far away, or take Tame for convenience. Tame is not at ease to go alone. Hearing Tame say that, How did not refuse. He took Aunt Thao's bicycle and Tame sat behind, hugging Tame on the way. How felt his heart beating faster than usual. The reason is that today Aunt Thao wears a red two-strand dress except for a thin shirt, but the button only has 2 knots on top. Every time the wind blows, the shirt flutters out of the smooth, thin dress, blowing out the white thighs. Hao's face blushes to the shock. Aunt Thao suddenly shouts, "Oh my God, I'm so shocked, I'm running slowly." After saying that, Tame put his hands tightly on Hao's waist. The soft feeling from Tame's hands made him confused. Yes, I'm sorry Tame, this road is a bit bad." Aunt Thao smiled, "It's okay, just keep your hands on the wheel. Tame believes in you." That sentence added to Tame's sweet smile makes Hao feel hot to the place. Aunt Thao leads Hao to a luxurious house. The customer is a chubby middle-aged man. His eyes are wide open, he keeps looking up and down. Aunt Thao, after greeting, the customer smiled and said, "Ms. Thao, this must be the best insurance salesperson in the area. What kind of person is so good at speaking and beautiful like this?" With his head bowed, Aunt Thao grinned and said, "That was very shy, but really, buying insurance is for the safety of the family, not because of the beauty of the seller." The customer grinned and said, "Yes, that's right, but beauty is also important, so go, Ms. Thao, just sit here and talk to me to worry more." Hao sat next to him, feeling a little uneasy when he saw the customer's eyes, but Aunt Thao maintained his professional demeanor while grinning. After a while, the customer finally agreed to sign the contract, and when he returned, Aunt Thao took a deep breath. This work is difficult, people must stare at Aunt Thao. As long as you succeed, Hao's eyes are full of joy, but there is also a hint of sadness in the back of his mind. On the way home, it started to rain, and Aunt Thao hurried into a tent on the road. Aunt Thao simply covered the bag and said, "It's raining too hard, Tame's shirt is wet, did you bring a coat?" Hao shook his head, his eyes accidentally slipped through Tame and immediately had to turn around. Aunt Thao's coat was now wet and stuck to his body, the road was almost all over his body. Hao clapped, said, "Let me stand and avoid the rain for Tame." Aunt Thao laughed, "Just stand there, it hasn't rained yet." "But you have to avoid it." Even though Tame said that, Hao still stood close to Tame, covering the rain by pulling the bag out. That action made Aunt Thao smile. "You're really grown up. When you were a baby, you were all wrinkled, now you're gallant like this." When it stopped raining, the two Aunt Thao came home in a wet state. Aunt Thao looked at Hao and said, "Tame, thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, Tame would be as wet as a rat today." Hao nodded, said, "It's nothing." Tame changed his clothes. Aunt Thao smiled. He entered the room, leaving Hao standing in the middle of the house. In his heart, the image of Aunt Thao in the rain was like a picture that he couldn't erase. After the rainy night the day before, Hao thought he would have a peaceful day, but no. Just after lunch, he received a message from Aunt Thao. "Hao, I have a little favor to ask you, please help me." After reading, Hao was both nervous and worried. "What is it again?" He rode quickly to Tame's house, but this time the door was unlocked, so he just stepped in and heard Aunt Thao calling him from the back of the house. He saw Aunt Thao in the yard's corner, and as he got closer, he noticed that he was wearing a set of clothes from home, but the two-color blue shirt and the short pants also gave Hao the impression that he was watching a movie. Aunt Thao raised his head, frowning, and was washing his hands because they were too tired and there was a lot of stuff. "Can you help me?" Hao said, "Let me wash it for you." Aunt Thao grinned, but he let Hao sit down. Hao nodded and picked up the first shirt, realizing right away that it was Tame's thin sleeping shirt. He scowled, unsure of how to do it, and Aunt Thao stood beside him, grinning. "Why do you think that? Did you find it challenging because of Tame's attire? Or do you find washing women's clothing frightening?" Hao nodded, "No, I can wash it." He hurriedly soaked the shirt in water, but it was even more messy when Aunt Thao nodded. He made 2 holes in the shirt, revealing his skin from that angle. Hao could only see in front of his eyes a full-fledged image. "You have to squeeze it like this. It's not a shirt that's easy to tear," Tame said, soft hands holding Hao's hands, instructing each movement. Familiar scent from Aunt Thao making Hao only know how to close his eyes. Doing what Aunt Thao told him to do after washing the clothes, Hao breathed in, but before he could sit down, Aunt Thao pointed his hand at the floor. Tame's sleeping lamp was broken. "I'll fix it for you." Hao looked up and nodded, "Yes, let me do it." Aunt Thao brought out a small ladder. Hao climbed up and started to shake off the old lamp. Aunt Thao stood right below, looked up, a face full of concern. "Be careful. Tame is afraid of the ladder." Hao turned his head back. "Yes, I'm sure, Tame. Don't worry." But then you quickly realized a serious problem. Aunt Thao stood too close, but from the top view you can clearly see the curve of the shirt under the shirt. For 2 seconds you quickly turned your face away, trying to focus on the light, but the sweat was like a bath. Aunt Thao saw. "I thought you were tired." I said, "What's wrong with you? If you're tired, take a break." Hao shook his head. "No, I'm just a little hot." Tame smiled. It turned out that the sky was not hot, but I was hot. The joke of Tame made Hao more confused. In the rush to install a new light he accidentally dropped a screwdriver on the ground. Aunt Thao screamed, but luckily the screwdriver fell right next to Tame. Hao panicked. "Yes, I'm sorry, Tame, I didn't mean to." Aunt Thao smiled. "It's okay, but next time you have to be careful. If you drop them, you have to give it to Tame." Hao turned his face away, both ashamed and lucky because it didn't make a bigger deal after completing the mission. Hao stood up to go home. Aunt Thao held back. "Tame thanked me a lot today. Tame bothered me a lot. Let Tame make lemon juice for me to drink." Hao shook his head, refused. "Yes, I'll go home tomorrow. I'm still busy studying." Aunt Thao smiled. "Yes, so tomorrow I'm free to visit Tame, and the electric fan is broken. As if I helped Tame." Hao bowed his head and walked home, but in his heart, he was still touched by the images and moments he just experienced. He thought, "Do what you have to do. Tomorrow I have to prepare myself better. I can't stand this forever. The next afternoon, when the sun was still shining outside, Hao received Tame Tao's call. Just picked up the phone. Tame's voice sounded sweet. Hao, are you free? Come here to help Tame a little bit. It won't take long. Hao heard that and refused. He hurriedly rode his bike over. He was embarrassed this time. He probably won't climb the stairs or wash anything. Hope it's simple. As soon as he stepped into the house, Hao saw Tame Tao sitting comfortably on the sofa. His legs were shaking. His hands were shaking today. Tame wore a light white shirt, a short-sleeved shirt to reveal his round shoulders and a long neck. Looking at Hao, Tame smiled. I came at the right time. Tame was tired. His neck was too tired. I gave him a little shoulder. Hao nodded. Let me try. You sat down behind Tame. Tame stopped to put his hand on his shoulder, but just touched you and shrugged. The soft skin of Tame was brought to the point that Hao did not dare to stretch his hand. What are you doing? You're so light. A little stronger. Tame Tao smiled, tilted his head to make it easier for Hao. Hao tried to use his strength, but as soon as he picked up a few, Tame Tao shouted, oh my god, too strong, it hurts. I'll pick it up a little bit. So Hao sat there. His hands shook his shoulders, trying to adjust the strength for Tame, but every time Tame Tao breathed out, the smell of oil touched Hao's hand. It made him very confused. Then, Tame Tao shook his shoulders again, looking at Hao, smiling. I was very good, but Tame still had leg pain. I poured some warm water for him to soak his feet. Hao nodded, hurriedly went to the kitchen to pour water. A moment later, he brought the pot of warm water in front of Tame. Tame Tao pulled the cloth up a bit to expose his long, slender legs, then gently put his feet in the pot of water. Tame said, I really helped. Tame felt comfortable. Tame just closed his eyes, enjoyed the feeling of relaxation, but not stopping there. Tame Tao looked up at Hao, half joke, half truth. It's not enough to just soak the water or massage your feet for Tame. Hao heard the sound of the towel falling on his hand. Yes, let me try. He sat down next to the pot of water, gently lifted Tame's feet for the first time. Hao realized that Tame's feet were not only long but also soft like a statue carved from a jade. He just rubbed his face. Tame gently pulled the cloth up to get rid of the wet. Hao's eyes looked into the gap between Tame's 2 feet. He was so stiff that when he put his eyes in, it was a pale purple panty. Yes, that's right, that's where it hurts. Tame Tao scowled. His voice was full of satisfaction. Hao just knew to be silent, but in his head, he was confused. Every time Tame Tao moved, the cloth was like accidentally falling a little more, making Hao don't know where to look. After that, Tame Tao stood up, bowed and said, thank you today. Tame is fine. It's true that having Tame doesn't need to go to the spa. Hao nodded. Yes, nothing Tame, but just about to leave. Tame Tao called back. Wait, did you forget that you want Tame to massage again? I was still massaged by Tame when I was a child. Hao was upset by Tame's jokes and shook his hands, saying, yes, no, I'm okay, Tame, just take a rest. Hao left Tame's house feeling conflicted because he believed he was continuing to help Tame in this way. I'm not sure if that's okay, but why is it so easy for Tame to confuse me? That night, as usual, Hao went to Tame Tao's house to teach to study. Everything seemed very normal, until suddenly it rained heavily. The sound of thunder echoed all over the sky. The rain hit the roof of the house, making Tu shiver. Hao, this kind of rain, you probably can't come back. Tame Tao stepped out of the kitchen at this time. Holding a handkerchief, Tame Tao wiped his hands, looking at Hao full of concern. Yes. The rain is too heavy. Stay here. Tame will give you more places to sleep. Hao was confused. Yes, so it's okay. The rain is like this. It's dangerous to go. The room is small and the place to sleep is cramped. Tame Tao's house is not spacious. There is only one bedroom and a double bed in the middle. After arranging the pillows for two, Tame Tao turned to look at Hao. Tame, you sleep with Tame and two on the small bed. There is no other place. I heard. Hao was drooling. You said, yes, so sleep with two. The children can lie on the ground. Tame Tao waved his hand. That's weird. The cold ground is easy to lie on. It's okay to lie together. It's a little tight and warm. After saying, Tame pulled Hao into the room, put him in the same corner, two in the middle and Tame lying on the side of the wall. Difficult moments on the bed. The double bed is large, but with 3 adults lying together, the result is a bit tight. Tame Tao wore a thin sleeveless suit. Lying on his head, the long black hair was blown out of Hao's eyes. The faint light from the sleeping lamp made Tame look like a goddess just stepped out of a painting. Every time Tame Tao waited for him, the thin sleeveless shirt moved to expose the shoulders and soft curves. Hao lay outside, trying to close his eyes but could not sleep. Have you slept yet? Not yet. Tame said in a deep voice. I asked Tame if he was cold or if he had pulled his leg up a bit. He stood motionless and did so, but this action caused his sleeveless shirt to fall, exposing the black inner shirt line. Hao drooled and turned his face away, thinking deeply, oh my God, why am I lying here? Tu abruptly turned to embrace Hao in a tense moment. Silly, Hao, it's raining too much, I'm scared. Hao shook himself, but before he could react, Tame Thao laughed too. This kid has Hao here and he's still scared. I hugged him, and he didn't cry now, but Hao gently hugged his back, trying to calm down, but Tu pulled his leg up again, making the space more messy. Tame Thao laughed, what a kid, I can't stand it. His father-in-law was silent, the rain hadn't stopped, and the wind blew through the window, keeping the small room warm. Tame Thao lay motionless for a while before turning around. His voice was tense, Hao, I'm asking you, do you have homework at home? Yes, I agree, you must look after your health. If you're too exhausted, simply let me know what you prepare for me. Do you think it's too long tonight? Hao tried to keep his distance, but every time Tame Thao opened the door, the bed shook again, making it impossible for him to relax. In the dark, Tame Thao breathed evenly, but the smell of Tame's incense still lingered, making it impossible for him to close his eyes. Will there be light in the sky tomorrow? Perhaps I can't handle it. Hao dreamed that when he closed his eyes for a while, the sky outside was growing brighter. The light from the window gently shone into the small room. And the sound of the chicken crowing far away indicated that a new day had begun. When Hao woke up, he realized that Tu was still holding his hand. It seemed as though he was dreaming of something interesting. Trying not to enrage the boy, Hao quietly took his hand out of his handbag. Just as he left the guest room, he heard the sound from the kitchen. Tame Thao was making breakfast, and there was a bowl of smoke on the table. Seeing Hao's worried expression, Tame returned with a gentle smile. Hao nodded his head, acknowledging that it was a little difficult to fall asleep last night. Tame Thao grinned, her eyes brimming with happiness. You're an adult, so why are you still shy? Come here and warm up with some porridge before continuing. Yes, let me help you. No need, everything is done. Eat some porridge. Tame noticed that Tu was likely exhausted from the previous night. Hao's face was red, and he was at a loss for words. He simply nodded his head and concentrated on the bowl of hot porridge in front of him. When Tu woke up and the boy came out, he was still asleep and blinking non-stop. Have you gone to school, Hao? Today, will you be teaching girls? The boy was not permitted to sleep last night, so he must have been exhausted. Tame Thao gave Tu Hao a kind smile and said, he's off today. I think I have to go home early to get ready for tomorrow. Thank you, Tame, for letting me stay overnight. Tu closed his mouth, but then nodded his head. Hao grinned and glanced at the clock. Why do you go home early? Asked Tame Thao quickly. Join Tame and Tu for lunch, then head home in the afternoon. There's nothing to be ashamed of about Tame's house, so Hao declined, but he looked into Tame's earnest eyes. You don't want to? Indeed, I would like to stay. During the morning, Hao assisted Tu with his homework, and Tame Thao made a filling dinner. The house felt warm and odd, as if the rain from the previous night had opened the door. Hao was no longer just a boy who taught ice cream, he had grown to know this small family. After the meal, which wasn't particularly filling, Hao assisted Tame Thao in cleaning the stove. And Tu wandered around the yard with a number of toys, creating a peaceful environment in the tiny house. How do you like my soup? Is it overly salty? Tame Thao asked. The hand just cleaned the table, the kitchen just looked at Hao. Yes, it's delicious, I see just the mouth, but also fragrant. Tame is really good at cooking. Hao is satisfied somehow in front of Tame's tender eyes. Tame Thao laughed, the laughter disappeared. You are so good at it, Tame said. Tame is old and there is nothing delicious. Hao was going to answer, but suddenly a strong water flowed up from the bathroom. Both were shocked. Oh no, Tame forgot to lock the faucet. Tame Thao hurriedly ran back to the bathroom. Hao also followed. The bathroom door was open, the water was flowing from the faucet all the way out. Tame Thao tried to get in but was stuck in the house, so just walked 2 steps, then Tame slipped. How, save me, How rushed in the opposite direction, in time to save Tame before Tame fell down, but in a hurry, he also slipped and made both of them fall. Tame Thao lay in Hao's arms. His cheeks were red, Tame's shirt was wet and stuck to his body. Hao only knew how to turn his face to cover Tame. Tame, are you okay? You know, Tame is fine, but why is he so awkward? When Hao was fidgeting to lock the faucet, Tame Thao was standing at an angle, trying to pull back his wet hair. The thin, sticky shirt on his shoulder made it difficult for Hao to look straight. So he quickly got up to help him get up carefully. However, the air in the bathroom was small, and the sound of the running water made both of them feel lightheaded. When Hao turned around, the two of them suddenly touched Hao. Yes, Tame, I always worry about Tame and Tuan. Tame was very touched, Tame shouted, his voice deep and gentle. Yes, Tame, I always worry about Tame and Tuan. Tame was very touched. For years, Tame's family fought against it. You don't know what to say, I just feel my heart beating faster. Hao remained silent and stared at Tame for a while. No, I love Tame and Tuan, so I don't feel uncomfortable. Hao's answer made Tame Thao smile, a warm, strange smile. In that moment, I don't know if it's because of the crowd or the small, intimate space. Tame suddenly stood up, put a slight kiss on Hao's cheek. Both of them stood still, not saying a word. Hao was surprised but didn't avoid it. You turned your face, your lips touched Tame's, a very slight touch, but enough to make both of them feel like there was an electric shock through the body. The last bubble also stopped running after a few minutes. Hao turned around to fix it. You were about to turn around. Suddenly, Tame Thao still stood still at the corner of the bathroom. His face was red, his face was swollen. The pale green cloth Tame was wearing was wet. It was close to his body, revealing his pink underwear. Each line was soft and sensitive. Hao tried to stay calm, but his eyes accidentally fell on Tame's slender shoulders where the drops of water were still flowing. They melted into the thin cloth. Tame was cold, so he took a towel for Tame to wipe his body. Hao tried to turn around. Tame Thao smiled, but his eyes were a little sad. Tame didn't answer right away, but stepped closer to Hao. He was quiet. Hao, did you find Tame strange? Yes, Hao glanced at you. What was Tame saying? Though he was always busy with two and this house had no one to rely on, Tame Thao nodded and his hands lightly touched his wet hair. He felt that he was different from other women and that he was accustomed to it. However, today, all of a sudden, Tame felt too weak. Hao looked at Tame, his eyes full of worry. Don't say that. Tame is very strong. I always admire Tame. Tame Thao nodded, his eyes teary. Can admiration, however, make Tame feel less alone? How, that unexpected question killed you. You don't know how to respond, you just know that right now, as you looked at Tame Thao in a wet and frail dress, your heart was filled with an odd sensation that made you want to comfort and hug him to protect. Hao stopped Tame Thao as he took a step closer. If Tame said that he needed you, did you think he was crazy? Hao glanced at Tame and felt his heartbeat. What had he said? Tame is not kidding. Hao, I know Tame is older than me. Tame has a lot of burdens, but since you appeared in Tame's life, Tame felt that he was no longer lonely. Tame liked you. Hao, the whole room was silent. Hao stood there, not saying a word, but instead of answering, you stepped closer, eyes full of determination. You looked straight into Tame Tao's eyes, then suddenly put a kiss on Tame's lips. Sweet, fierce, but sincere. Tame Thao was shocked but then closed her eyes to answer that kiss. In the middle of the sound of water there was a faint rustling from the lotus flower and the gentle scent of saffron. That moment was like a long, sudden pull. Hao closed the bathroom door. The space now only had the sound of water running and Tame's breathing. After a moment of two hearts beating in the bathroom, Hao and Tame Thao left a connection between the rustling sound of water and the faint light. Both of them realized that they had found a place in each other. No more confusion or hesitation. They let their true feelings speak for themselves. Hao decided to stay at Tame's house today. They continued together in the bathroom, then went to the kitchen. Sometimes they went to the living room to put the sleepy boy to sleep alone in the room. The next morning, when the sun rose, the light passed through the living room window. Hao woke up on the sofa chair that he had slept on. Then Tame Thao woke up early preparing breakfast for two, and Hao. Tame's eyes were a little shy but also full of warmth. Every time he looked at Hao, Hao said, "Yesterday, thank you." Tame put the cake on the table. Yes, me too. I don't know what to say, but I think from now on I want to be with Tame and too. Tame Thao smiled. The smile brightened the whole kitchen. Tame also hoped so. How? Since that day Hao's relationship with Tame Thao gradually became more special. Although not public, they began to spend more time together, taking advantage of the time two went to school. Hao took Tame to dinner at a small restaurant located in an alley where the warm yellow light created a romantic atmosphere. Tame Thao was embarrassed when he first sat across from Hao in a date. Tame felt a little strange. Tame smiled. It's been a long time since Tame has eaten like this. Tame felt like a kid. Tame is not strange. Tame is very beautiful, Hao replied, eyes full of admiration at other times. Hao and Tame walked along the river where the moonlight shone on the water, shimmering like broken mirrors. They talked to each other about trivial things, about work, about life, and even dreams that everyone thought they would not have the opportunity to do. Tame Thao is not only a gentle woman but also a person who understands Hao's difficulties. Tame always listens, always encouraging. He pursues bigger goals in life. Hao turned back, became a shoulder for Tame to lean on, help Tame feel that although life is hard, Tame is no longer lonely. Once, while sitting on the bench in the park, Hao suddenly held Tame's hand. Steadfast eyes. Tame, I think I can't hide like this forever. I want to take care of Tame, and too I want the whole society to know that I love Tame. Tame Thao is a quiet person. Then nodded, teary eyes. If you have decided, Tame is not afraid of anything as long as you do not regret. That afternoon Hao and Tame Thao decided to meet at a cafe near the resort to talk more privately about their relationship, but because of the sudden rain neither of them want to sit outside the store for a long time. Move to a nearby resort to rest. I think I'll stay here for a while, wait for the rain to stop and then go, Hao said handily. Adjust the wet raincoat bag. Tame Thao was a little stunned but then nodded. Yeah, this rain can't come back right away, but is it okay if no one sees it? It's okay, Tame, it's just the rain. Hao and Tame Thao both stepped into a room and waited for the rain to stop, but the conversation gradually became deeper when Tame Thao breathed. Tell about the difficulties that Tame had to face after getting married. Hao, I really appreciate you. Without you, I don't know how I would get through. Tame said, teary eyes. He looked as if hiding many things that could not be said. Hao held Tame's hand. Answer sincerely. Tame, don't say that. I also need Tame as Tame needs you for a long time. I don't see Tame as just another person. That moment space, like only two people left. Both look at each other, eyes full of emotions, until Hao couldn't help but kneel down, put a kiss on Tame Thao's forehead. 2 hours later Tame Thao and Hao are tired and step out of the house. At that moment outside, Hao's mother just passed by the abandoned house to find an acquaintance. She stopped when she saw two familiar shadows from afar step out of the abandoned house. Hao and Tame Thao both immediately smiled. Tame Thao blushed, not saying a word, while Hao tried to keep calm. Mom, what are you doing here? Mom must have asked you that, or the person who just left said, don't tell Mom it's raining. Hao was obstinate, and Tame Thao closed her eyes and dared not look at Oh, I suppose went on, asking, what did you and Thao do in there, in a louder and more serious manner. Is it brave of you to call each other Tame? My son is grown up, so I'm not a child to believe in superstitions, so it's not what you think. Hao tried to say, Mom. How dare you love your Tame? Hao stopped. Mom, yes, I love Tame Thao. Not right now, but for a long time. If you want to know, I'll tell you that we love each other. If you don't believe in yourself, stepped back. Tame Thao was shaking. She told her sister, I'm sorry, but what Hao said is true, we love each other. And I know this is wrong for everyone, but what, though? Do you think you can use love as an excuse? Nearly yelled. Are you doing something you know? I said, I don't care what others think. I love Tame Thao and I will be responsible for my decision. After Hao stepped up in front of Tame Thao's mother. The conversation was heated. When they got home, called Hao and Tame Thao into the living room. She sat down and tried to remain composed. Hao, I can't trust you to let this happen. Do you know what others will say? She said. I'm not saying you can't love anyone, but why, Thao? You realize she's your Tame. I know you're worried, but you're still calm, Mom. But to me, Tame Thao is more than just your Tame. She's a woman who transformed me and inspired me to become a better man. I don't want to keep this a secret any longer. My turn to face Tame Thao, crying. How about you? Are the repercussions something you consider? Or are your thoughts solely focused on yourself? Tame Thao nodded. Her eyes were red. I know I was wrong to let this happen, but I can't stop. My heart How is the only one who cares for me, and Tuan I tried to keep my distance but I couldn't do it. I looked at both of them. How and Aunt Thao looked at each other. Their eyes were full of determination even though they were caught in a difficult situation. How and Aunt Thao decided to face all the challenges together, even though Mai said things that made How and Aunt Thao think, but deep down, they couldn't stop. Their love had lasted for months, and so, How and Aunt Thao continued to live in silence. No one knew about their special relationship. Even though their dates were full of secrets and conceals, they still kept that love as an important part of their lives. Their urgent dates, their tender looks in the dark were the moments they cherished the most. Every evening when the sun set, How and Aunt Thao went to a deserted place where there were only two of them to feel the closeness, even though it was only for a short time. Aunt Thao was always waiting for him in the corners where no one could find them. The deserted gardens, the dark alleys, those were the only places where they could share their love without being afraid of being discovered. They understood that this love could not be public, could not live like other couples, but in that secrecy they found their own peace and happiness. Even though they both understood that they could not live in love like other couples, but their feelings for each other were not weak. How learned how to accept the truth that this love will never have an end. No, one day they could hold each other's hands, step into the light, live in public happiness. But he still loved Aunt Thao with all his heart, loved her deeply and sincerely. There was nothing more important for Aunt Thao. Every time he met How, it was a small happiness in a life full of difficulties and worries. She understood that this love always had to go with sacrifice, hiding in tears, never allowed to fall in front of others. But even so, she could not stop, because in her deep heart she also loved How, loved the way he brought her a sense of peace, loved the sincerity in each eye, each smile he gave her. Even in empty afternoons, in dark hotel rooms, or in desolate gardens, their love still continued. They could not live like a normal couple, but that love, no matter how strong it was, it could not be cut off. Even if life pushed them into dark roads, their love was still an indispensable part in their hearts. How and Aunt Thao knew there was no permanent end to their relationship, and maybe they would never be able to live in this love, but for them what matters is not the end but the moments they were together. Whether in the gardens, their love still continued. They could not live like a normal couple, but that love, no matter how strong it was, it could not be cut off. Even if life pushed them into dark roads, their love was still an indispensable part in their hearts. How and Aunt Thao knew there was no permanent end to their relationship, and maybe they would never be able to live in this love, but for them what matters is not the end but the moments they were together. Whether in the end